welcome everybody to another episode of Slow Secrets. My name is Julie Spark, and today we are going to talk about investment. So I have invited here Paula, who I'm a big fan of your work. Paula, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. I'm also a big fan of you. I think we are very relatable on that
That we
topic. Yes,
So
we share a
today
lot of.
we are going to talk about the concept of circular economy. Paula, maybe you can explain a little bit more versus linear economy. What is circular economy?
So, circular economy looks like a very new topic, but in reality, it's something that has been existing in the world since the beginning of life. Nature works everything circular, right? So, when I explain this to kids, we go back to the Lion King and that conversation that Mufasa has with Simba of how the lion dies, becomes food to the grass becomes food to the antelope becomes food for the lion. And back when we look back at our nature class in a school, everything is cycles, right? The water cycle, the oxygen cycle. So because nature has designed everything circular, so there's no waste, how come humans have become to this moment in time where we have this huge problem of garbage? And no other creature in the planet, no animal produces garbage. The Homo sapiens is the only animal that produces garbage, and we produce a lot of it. And in the last 50 years, we've produced a lot more. So now we are facing problems like the plastic, like, even new products like electronics, like the e-waste is called, this tonnage of it.
Yeah.
And we've all heard that computers are made out of rare metals, and we still don't click that rare means rare. So
Yeah.
what's going to happen when there is no more metals because they are all in landfills, right?
Yeah.
So circular economy aims to go back to, the nature way of thinking, so that we can recirculate materials, or that we can make use out of the biodegradable system that nature has already established, so that we can recirculate materials over and over and over, or else we're gonna be in a situation where we have a scarcity of resources, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So this is basically to go back and think back. There are three principles that are like the main principles of the circular economy. One is that we need to preserve and enhance the natural capital, right? We can't keep extracting at the pace we are extracting. There's many relation topics on this, but one of them is that we are many people, right?
Yeah.
So when Kennedy died, just before the 70s, there was half the population in the planet that there is now, right? So now we're doubling, like 30 years. I mean, we're talking that humans have been living on the earth, like, let's say 200,000 years. And in the last 100 years, with extraction of oil and energy resources like fossil fuels, we've literally, grown exponentially our race, right? The Homo sapiens. So if we don't implement a way like circular economy, we're going to face a scarcity on all of our resources, because we also consume a lot, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first principle. We need to enhance. So why can I not reuse things instead of having to cut more forest?
Absolutely.
If I allow that forest to rest for a long time, nature will make it grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about timing. We just need to let nature, enhance itself, recover itself. The second principle is optimize the resources yields, right? So there is this wonderful book called Cradle to Cradle. That's my first approach to circular economy, but it wasn't naming circular economy because that word didn't exist yet, right? But in Cradle to Cradle, they say, why does a shampoo bottle from any brand last 400 years?
Yeah, it doesn't make any
When
sense.
the poo you're gonna use it, doesn't make sense, right? So these are the yields, right? So before, it's all about economics, right? So it was cheaper for us to just throw it. But right now there's going to be a moment where with law, regulations, and economics, because the markets are moving that direction, we'll need to recirculate those materials, because if not, we have the problem of where does it go and why are not we using that shampoo bottle? I mean, the first shampoo bottle that you ever bought, Julie, you could be still using it.
Yes. Why
Right?
can't I
In your life when you were like 2 years old, right?
Yeah.
So that's the second principle, right? To optimize the yields, the resource yields, right? Like reuse it, reuse it, reuse it. And you have two cycles, which is the biological cycle. So there are things that biodegrade. This is great.
Yeah.
We can use that. That's a natural cycle. That's what nature designed already for us. But there are other things that are like technical cycles. So for example, and this is already moving into the markets right now. So instead of me buying a washing machine and in 5 years it's broken and I throw it away, I rent the washing machine from the supplier. And in 5 years, he'll give me a new one and he'll take the old one and he will dismantle, right? The materials and, rebuild into his new. So it's more like a service. You rent a service. It's like a rental, right? It's like when these cars rentals and stuff. So that way there is not so much garbage because you don't need to throw it away. And then the municipality doesn't need to deal with it. The key issue here on this second principle is that for the technical cycle, manufacturers and designers, I am an architect, so this is really important. We need to be able to design for this assembly, which is something that we've never done before, right? So right now the European Union launched the package of circular economy 2021, and Spain just launched it in our national law. And every single brand that sells products in Spain need to ensure a 10-year warranty and a 10-year replacement of spare parts.
Oh, nice.
So they don't allow these companies anymore. So they need to figure out, new ways. So this rental methodology is one of them. Like, for example, they're doing this already in car tires. They rent you the car tire. You use it when it's like flat, you exchange it, but you're paying on a consistent, you get on a contract like a phone company, right? Contract. They say that. So this is so like a new challenge, but it's already happening and it will happen more. We just need to all jump to it. And then the third principle is to foster system effectiveness, right? So there's a lot of things that we have been producing and manufacturing for years that are super ineffective.
Yeah.
And we don't care because linear economy, and that's, a little bit what you were asking, the difference is that linear economy, they extract, they manufacture, they sell. That's it. They don't care about after the consumer time, right? So it is really important to acknowledge that. And that has to be part of the responsibility of the manufacturer, right?
Yeah.
Right now, the consumer is responsible for it, but there has to be that shift into the manufacturer. And a lot of the things, for example, the effectiveness, like we need to start caring about these externalities, like how much you pollute. So for example, concrete, right?
Yeah.
Concrete is a mix of cement and gravel or different medium like sand or gravel. And it's been the material we've been using for building together with the steel forever. Now, steel is quite circular because steel gets reused a lot, right? So a lot of the steel you will get is probably, it has a recycling content of like 90%. However, concrete is really hard to reuse because once it gets harder, you can only use it as gravel, right? As like rubble, right? But 1 kilo of cement comes from limestone. And before you buy it, when you buy your sack of 25 kilo of cement, you don't know that to produce that cement, 1 kilo of cement is 1 kilo of CO2 to the atmosphere. So that's an externality. Imagine how many kilos of cement any building that you own or that you have.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And think that in the last 10 years, China built more, used more concrete than ever before in history. Right? So That means that all of those kilos of cement, which in a building is tonnage,
Yes.
that was to the environment. And no one was looking at the cement companies for that.
Yeah.
Those things are externalities. If we go to food production, it's the same. No one is looking what the cows are eating. And yet, so for example, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
building sector is the number one CO2 polluter sector in the world,
Ah,
the building stock,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
includes the consumption inside buildings, your heating, your aircon, all of that. But it also includes the process of building,
Yeah.
construction.
Yeah. I had no idea.
Cement, the production of cement is 8% of the global world emissions.
It's huge.
It's huge, right? But the second sector is meat production,
Yeah.
and no one is aware of that. So those are those externalities that the principle 3 is telling you that we need to design out
Yeah. Yeah.
those
Yeah.
externalities. We need to foster effectiveness, and we need to design out externalities. Companies, manufacturers, designers need to consider the negative impact that you're producing, which until now it was completely, ignored, right?
Yeah.
So those are the three things. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation is the foundation that tackles all related to circular economy. So anyone, if they're really interested, I would recommend to read Cradle to Cradle. That's the book written by a chemist and an architect,
Yeah.
right? This
Ah,
is
nice.
from the 2000, year 2003.
Yeah.
And and then if they want to dig in more, they could go to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. They have a lot
Yeah.
of material about it.
I will link
Yes.
it in the comments. That's great. And how did you end up in circular economy? What's your
That's
story?
a great question. So I'm an architect, right? And I have a master's on sustainable architecture and building performance. So I've been really connected to the environment and the sustainability and the impact of buildings. So I'm always reading and looking for material. And I heard on the radio in Spain that this one guy who was he was the head of the climate, how would you say, in office of Obama, the
Yeah.
sector of climate change and stuff,
Yeah.
the head of it, the principal of that office, right? He's a guy from Spain.
Ah,
So, I followed him on social media, no, just for the sake of, oh my God, I mean, this guy's Spanish and he's like the head of environmental office of Obama's administration. And he announced on his social media that they were going to launch this boot camp about circular economy, right? So I heard it on the radio, and then I went to his social media and I saw, and you needed to like literally apply for it and write an essay and send all your credentials. I had been working in Singapore as sustainability consultant for already like 10 years. So I wanted I was keen to know what was this about.
yeah.
And then I saw who were going to be the teachers on the boot camp, and Obama was coming. But there
Wow.
were 5 Nobel Prizes. There were 2 economy Nobel Prizes. And then there were people like this, the
I
Minister of
love.
Happiness of Bhutan, and we had Jeremy Rifkin. We had the principal of the Climate Financial Institute. So it was like a week off, all these trainings and stuff. So I applied for it and I got selected.
Nice.
So it was in the summer in July, and I did that, and I got trained to become an ambassador for circular economy, and it was fascinating.
Yeah.
And then I was wondering how come all of these high profile people were so interested about this topic of circular economy and suddenly the environment. And after participating in the boot camp, it was very clear to me that they have real data, right?
Yes.
So we had 2 economic Nobel Prizes that were saying GDP is not going to grow. We have a huge environmental problem. Our resources, like we depend on the environment, our resources are going down. If we don't implement this new model, this is going to be doomed, economy is going to be
Yeah.
doomed. And this is prior to COVID pandemic, so it was kind of like really clear to me that it's really important that we start doing this now.
Yeah.
And since then in that bootcamp, I realized that that book that I had read before, Cradle to Cradle, was exactly this. It was talking about this same problem. It's just that they hadn't named it circular economy,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
But that book is the essence of it. And that's the book I read when I was like in my early years after finishing architecture. My boss gave it to me as a present because I was kind of concerned about the environmental stuff. And he gave it to me. And then is when I decided to do my master's.
Nice.
So it's actually, circular economy has been really present in my life for a while now already. Yes.
Nice. So you live like me on a tropical island, right? In Lombok?
I
It
live
must
in
be very
Lombok.
challenging there to try and
Well, I
implement
moved from
circular
like a
economy.
director. I moved from a director position in corporate,
Yeah.
like really good money, to come here to a grupo. You've been in the village where I live, right? It's like
Yeah, it's
1,000 people, Indonesian fishermen.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy when you think back, but it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, how do you feel about it? It's like there are challenges like everywhere else, but I feel like because this place is so raw and development hasn't really started so much. Um, for me, me and my husband built our house here, and then it was kind of like I was a bit tired of the corporate world, and I thought, okay, I'll just give it a try. And then I started with my architecture office here, and now I do a lot of architecture.
Yeah.
Um, but because this place is so raw, we see development coming. I mean, you've lived in Gillis, right?
Yeah.
Like 10 years ago, Gili had nothing, and now it's everything. And now you're facing the problems that humanity are facing, but in the small scale,
Yes.
right? You
Yeah.
are facing water issues, overloading electricity issues. You're
Yeah.
facing septic, sanitation. You're facing plastic and garbage.
Yeah.
You are especially in a tiny island, and I'm a bigger island.
Yes,
So here
absolutely.
is a really good place to do the exercises of understanding the impact of humanity,
Yeah.
right? Because it's endless.
Yeah.
And when we live in cities and in our countries, we don't see it because it's like, I flush the toilet, I don't know where my poop
Yeah.
goes. I throw my garbage, I have no idea where it goes. I
Yeah.
have no idea where my electricity comes from. I have no idea where my water comes from. So
Totally.
you are completely disconnected from all of these things that are key, essential to us. So
Absolutely.
we don't have water, we die,
Yeah.
energy, all of those things are so important. And coming here to a tropical island that had nothing, it puts you like in place of where, or of you and nature, you are
Yeah.
connected to nature and all of your impact in nature
It's right there.
in your door,
Right
right?
there.
Yeah.
Like you have to be like there is no other way, you have to be conscious about your trash. You have to be conscious about the consumption of your water, and you have to be conscious about, yeah, just all of it.
And yet this is supposed to be a place where it's like developing for tourism, right?
Yeah.
So much. But because it's such an early stage, and even though COVID stopped tourism, it also gave opportunity to to have time to
Yes.
reflect on all of this, right?
Yes, to like
Yeah.
implement like the foundation of what
Yeah.
we're going to build on. Like about I
Yeah.
don't know, 3 years ago or something, I went to a meeting at the head of the island because we were receiving a foundation, the Dow project, who did a lot of great things for the plastics on this island. And I remember the head of the island saying, I want this island to become zero waste. And I was sitting on my chair going, oh my God, like what a revelation. Let's do it. And then, of course, the next day we had a triathlon, and then we all received these little water bottles, which is like basically a cup with a straw. You drink it, you throw it away. And I was like, well, if you want to be zero waste, the first thing to
Gonna
do here,
start, having
you know,
a
but
little,
yeah, absolutely, it's refill.
bottle.
But since
So I
then,
think
there's
it's
been a lot of steps from the island community, and people really care. And now with COVID, they're really starting to implement things. And
yeah.
yeah,
And I think because right now suddenly sustainability and green and eco is marketed as something good.
yeah, green
And
is
every time we have all these projects with the government, I go to them and I tell them, this idea of, I want Lombok to become the first sustainable island, the first
yes,
wait a second, because I have it here, right? Um, what I tell them is that I want um, Lombok to become the first real circular island of the world, right?
Yes, yes.
And it's the same as zero waste.
Yeah,
However, it's kind of like they, you know, and a lot of things here, we are way worse in our countries, right? Here is
yes,
still, they were
agree,
farming, 10 years ago, eating coconut and banana leaves,
agree.
right?
Yeah,
So a lot of things I think it's easier to do. So we have all these projects of, BSF and all of that, and those give you like compost and give you like larvae, and they are applied to farming. And here it's very farming still, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
I think it's relatively easier. However, like if I'm in architecture and I work with a lot of developments, and they provide water, electricity, and roads, and then I'm like, what about waste,
Yeah,
right? So what about that? Do you have a place, you consider, like it's not in the formula of the developers, right?
crazy, right?
However, Lombok doesn't have waste collection.
Wow.
The landfills are full here, like so full, like there are stream capacity, and yet how much garbage gets to the landfill?
Yeah.
Very little, right? So there's the need to implement. It's just really hard. Um,
I think what is
it's a
hard
really slow process.
to change the habits of a person. Because if you think like I have been changing my waste for what now, couple of years, and it's not that hard once you like
Nah,
separate the
nah.
organics from the plastics. Everything's kind of clean, and then what gets recycled goes back into the economy. The organics goes back into the economy, and then what you have is actually very little. Like I have
Very
maybe one
little,
bag
and I
for
mean,
months.
yeah, and there's a lot of I call them sharks in the ocean, like plastic sharks. There's a lot of companies
Yeah,
already approaching to come here to use the plastic, do the paralysis, or do the plastic break. So there is already a lot of upcycling ideas. We started the first black soldier fly waste conversion, organic waste conversion facility here near south of Lombok, where I am. And our problem is that we don't receive the garbage.
yeah.
So you make the facilities, and now you have the problem of the collection, and now you need to go deep into the collection. So it's like a lot
But
of
once
step.
it
However,
starts to
here,
get rolling, once it starts to get rolling, you already have everything set up.
yeah, because
It's
you
just that
make
like
you make money
changing
the more
someone's
the
habit,
waste.
changing someone's habit. But once it's changed, it becomes automatic, But there's the
Yes, yes,
beginning. The beginning is hard.
yes.
Talking about chicken, worm, and black soldier fly farm, I think maybe we can talk a little bit more about that because a lot of people don't know what it is. I mean, for us, it's like normal.
So the waste conversion facilities are facilities that receive waste. It could be different kinds. And what they do is that they have they upcycle it in the sense that either they convert it into something else, or either they source it and they, ship it, or they make an end product out of it, right? So we understood that one of the biggest problems here is that the waste is not separated. You know how in Europe people are already quite used to separating, right?
Yeah.
I remember my mother at the beginning 10 years ago when they said, okay, no, you have now to have two bins, the containers, then, and she was like, how am I gonna put all of it in the kitchen? I don't have space in the kitchen. But at the end it's the same volume. It's the same amount of garbage than before. It's just separated, right?
Yeah.
So Spain is already, separating forever, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, here, this is a big challenge because no one is doing it, right? So
Yeah.
we thought that, and you were part of it, we created this circular Lombok meeting, like
Yeah.
an event of 2 days event. And Shiva, a friend of ours from Singapore, he's doing Black Soldier Fly already in India. So he came in, and it basically is an organic waste conversion system. So normally you would take organic waste and you will make it into compost by, with machines that give air, like the aerators machine and stuff. But this system doesn't need machines because you use this larvae of
Yeah.
this fly, and it's called the black soldier fly. So it's a system that doesn't use any machines, so CO2 emissions. It's a system that uses these animals to convert the organic waste into compost. And funny enough, this little animal is the fastest conversion system in the world. So
Wow.
thank you, Mother Nature, for designing the best machine that is for free.
Hallelujah.
So what we did is that we built a nursery. So we grow now a black soldier fly to be able to convert 7 tons of organic waste a day, and yet we are not there yet. And then we did a facility of organic waste conversion for 1 ton. So we use the black soldier fly. Why is this method better than any other method to produce compost? Because you still get the compost, but you also can sell the larvae.
Nice.
Because the larvae is the natural feed of chickens and fish.
Yes.
So when I started doing this, I said, okay, I'm going to do this in my house. I have 40 chickens. I spent quite a lot of money to feed them. So I'm going to try to substitute. So I substitute 50% of the feed that I give them with this black soldier fly. And then we also started allowing the chickens to go on the garden and eat from the garden. And our chickens are for eggs. And my eggs are the best eggs of all Lombok, you know.
Nice.
So if a tray of eggs here costs you 30,000, my tray of eggs, I sell them for 60,000. So I spend less on feeding my chickens, but I sell more expensive the product. And Lombok, which is a place which is really rural, this is a great. So right now we have this facility in Senkol. We are at 200 kilos of waste conversion a day. And
Nice.
all of our efforts now are into getting more waste, right? Because this is the key. This was promised to us that we would get the waste, but it didn't work. So then we, if you want to do it, you have to do it yourself, right? So that's what we're doing. So, but we already sell the larvae. There are hotels here, like slow villas, you have like a pond. There are hotels here that have ponds like this with fish.
Yeah.
We sell the live larvae to them. They reduce half their cost on fish, on feeding the fish. Anyone that has chickens. So right now our bigger aim is to get up to 1 ton, because then I can sell a lot of compost and I can sell a lot of maggots, and I can make, it's a really profitable facility, right? And it's so easy to replicate it. So we inaugurated in December. It's been a challenge, and we're still getting donations, because right now we are going into the waste collection. So we are there, and hopefully we can do the phase 3, which would be the center of excellence. We want to make a permaculture center, a visitor center, a place where people can learn about aquaponics, about permaculture, about composting, about farming, organic eggs, organic chickens. And we can sell the produce, and it can become a visitor center. I think having a waste conversion facility next to a visitor center, it's something unique. It doesn't exist. And it's the biggest example of what circular economy is. I take your garbage and look everything that I can produce. I can sell eggs, I can sell organic chickens, I can sell fruits and veggies that are organic, I can sell educational courses. I can sell seeds, no? So this is the phase 3, and we're hoping that we will be able to make it right in next to our facility.
For sure.
And hopefully, and it's a very good place to understand what circular economy means, right? Waste to value.
Yes, waste to value, instead of just
so let's see
in the ocean or in a landfill.
Yeah, so I mean, organic waste doesn't have a lot of problem if you just throw it in the ocean, or if you just throw it in, in the land.
But then plastics, right?
Yes. So, but the moment it's together with all the other plastics and container and packaging and stuff, and you throw it in the landfill, it produces this, it goes to this, chemical reaction, and then
very dirty. So then they are much less value because they have to be clean.
First of all, yes, exactly. First of all, you complicate a lot the next sourcing, right? If I take all the organic first out, on landfill, they can literally separate everything else, right? Really easily. But if I don't separate, it becomes really complicated, because then the landfill starts having this chemical reaction that they produce methane and very dangerous greenhouse gases. And it's really, really dangerous. It can pollute the water, it pollutes the air, the people that live around it. So even a landfill without organic would be a complete different concept. So
Yeah.
that's why our biggest focus was on the organic first, right?
Yeah, very good idea. I
Yeah.
think you made a video that I really appreciated, and I will also link it in the comments, where you said, have you ever thought about what your food eats?
Yes.
Which is a little bit
Yes,
what we were talking about before, but I actually, I think you should maybe talk a little bit more about the
because
soy
it's one
consumption.
of the
I had
biggest,
no idea. Yeah.
is one of the biggest industrial processes that we do nowadays that is less efficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we, for example, I mean, we could go to cattle, cow, we could go to pig, we could go to chickens, but currently humans consume 65 billion chickens a year,
That's huge.
right? That's a lot, right? And for us to feed the chickens, we need protein.
Hmm.
So what we do is that we grow soy, and soy needs so much land and so much water,
Hmm.
right? So we are using we consume directly like 10% of the global soy production, but um, the rest, the 90% rest is just to feed fish
Yeah.
and chickens. And not only that, for example, fisheries, the biggest, the biggest is like 50% of the world's fishing on the oceans is to feed the fish.
That's massive.
So we are consuming our ocean's fish to give food to our fish in pools to then us eat,
Ah, God.
right? And if you look at Europe, if you do France, Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium together, that's all the area we are using to grow soy.
Makes no sense.
So,
Crazy.
all of these things. So why are we feeding this to our animals? So for
Yeah.
example, black soldier fly, which grows exponentially, like insect farming in general is something that is quite popular nowadays because it exactly represents that. So we could grow black soldier fly through by converting our waste, we create organic fertilizer,
Yes.
and the larvae, we can literally make food pellets
It's
of
very good.
protein, and it has amino acids, and it has, you name it, it's like the
I love it.
best
I love it.
feed, the best feed. And for the same amount of protein as soy, imagine worldwide, we would need less than 0.1% of the water and 0.1% of the land
What a solution.
to feed our chickens, who actually love black soldier fly maggots, because that's
Yes.
their
That's just
nature
right
designed the
way.
chickens to eat that, right? And then we would be eating healthier chickens,
Yeah.
right, with less preservatives on the food. So all of these things, this is why all of this, insect farming, which is this black soldier fly, and all of that is happening, because if we focus on food security, we could even actually eat the maggots, dry.
Yeah.
It's just
Protein.
that right now humans are a bit far from, okay, I'm gonna eat worms. But when people have famine, on famines and stuff,
Mm.
it's an incredible source of protein and amino acids and fats,
Yeah.
so it's something that we need to consider. And it's something that the more the people do it, the more safe we're gonna be as an species, for our own nutrition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's really important that, and I think we need to radically change the way we feed our food.
Yes. Yeah. We have chickens too. And the eggs taste just unreal. Even the garden, the tomato, the first tomato I had from the garden, I smelled
Yes,
it and then I tasted it and I was like, oh, that's what a tomato tastes like. I
yes,
forgot.
yes.
One I have in the shop, it's full of
So
water. I
we
don't
have
even taste like a
we
tomato
have quite
anymore.
a few seeds. Yeah, we have quite a few seeds. I mean, we have a problem with the monkeys in my house, right? We can't grow. We
The
can't
love of
grow.
monkeys.
No, they just, we can't
Yeah.
grow. We haven't seen a single mango, in our life. Yeah,
We don't have
so
enough King Gili.
that's a different topic.
So I think you agree like me that green is the new black, right? I mean, there should be really like a massive shift to sustainable living, sustainable tourism, just
A massive
like,
shift.
and it's really
I
urgent.
mean, we can demand. I mean, look, Julie, if you start reading, like I read the reports, the IPCC, you know, and I mean, we literally have no other
Choice.
solution, right?
So if we, because I think
So
other people they know, but they're like, yeah, but how? You know, because I live in city and I can't really do anything about blah 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 blah. So if you had to
uh,
give them a few
it's a
action
really, I
points,
mean, it's a
a
really
couple of
good
action
question
points.
because nothing is gonna change overnight,
No,
right?
sure.
However, things are moving really fast, eh?
Yeah. So what we
Like
can, what
I
can we
studied my
do as a
master in
business
2010,
and
yeah,
as a
and
person?
I did my master's. So it's a bit difficult, right? Because you know, like for example, me, I just turned 40, and I'm an architect, young. I still have like 20, 25 years, 30 years of profession ahead of me, right? And yet, you know, the people that study with me, we never learned anything about the impacts of buildings in the environment in our university, right? So that wasn't a topic. Now it is a topic now, right? And many people are, but my generation and the generation older than me that are still practicing have no idea about it. So this presents two main challenges or you know opportunities. One is that young people have the power
Yeah.
because there's not all dogs sitting on positions of power in relation to environmental and sustainability. So how was I a director at 32 in a corporate is
Hmm.
because I was the only person that knew about sustainable architecture.
Hmm.
My bosses didn't know anything. I call them the dinosaurs, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, they know the old school, the new, it's like, you know, IT, all of these things are pretty new. And the people that lead it are young minds, right?
Yeah.
So Greta Thunberg is not even 18 years old, and
Yeah.
she's leading a whole movement that is unbelievable.
And
And the second opportunity is like women, right?
hmm.
So women have always been, you know, we couldn't, you know, in history, there weren't many women. Women weren't allowed to do anything else that was just like taking care of the kids, breeding, and being in charge of the reproduction of our species, right?
Yeah.
However, now with education, women is, you know, getting like, hey, I also want to do other things, right? Maybe I have other plans instead of maternity. There's people that choose that, but there's many others that don't choose it. And women are coming up as leaders of this movement because there's not dinosaurs sitting on those chairs yet,
Yeah.
right? So, and because we're a bit more nurturing, right? I think maybe. And so the opportunity that the sustainable movement and the environmental roadmap, you know, brings to us women and brings to us young people is enormous, right?
Yeah.
And only when the markets are saying, hey, hey, solar is cheaper, solar is the cheaper energy, then is when everybody's like, whoa. And only when, you know, like last year, you know, Davos, right, is the Forum of Economics. Last year, the five biggest challenges of Davos, you know, the 5 points that are more threatening to our economy were five on environment.
Yeah.
10 years ago, it was terrorism, it was, you know, you name it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now everybody's aligned with that.
Yeah.
Of course, there's people that are like, what the fuck, you know, I have this business, now it's obsolete,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, the big power companies and all of them, they're starting to shift. The other day in the Netherlands, in La Haya, there was a Shell was demanded, like sued, and now they have to pay for all the CO2 emissions that they. So times are shifting. People are going to be responsible for their externalities, and we have such an opportunity, young people, to lead the roadmap and tell others, like, look, you've been doing this wrong. We have to do it this way. And I couldn't do, like, I couldn't say these things to anyone and preach and do, you know, conferences about sustainable architecture and building performance and passive design and stuff if I wasn't myself living that life, right?
Yeah.
So when you earlier asked me my move, you know, here, that's also a thing that for me taught me, I needed to walk the talk. I need to be
I agree.
sustainable in how I live,
I,
right? So, I mean, you've been in my house. My house is a net zero house made out of bamboo, completely circular. I can, dismantle it if I want to. I get my own water. I have refiltration tanks for my water. I have a lot of permaculture water strategies. I recirculate. I treat all my gray water and all my black water, which I reuse for my toilets and my irrigation. I have my chickens, I have my
yeah.
larvae, I have solar panels.
Yes. Yes.
Um, my house consumes less than a blender Vitamix machine, right? So I
Wow.
don't have that machine at home, right? So it's like, so people, I mean, you know how much electricity costs here. My year of electricity in my house, because I still have a little backup for my pump of the well. All my pumps are with timers, so I only pump, I have gravity tanks, you name it, it's like I have it all. I don't have aircon, everything is cross ventilated. We even built the house with one screwdriver. That was the only machine. So even my house is low impact from the construction aspect as well. Minimize the use of cement. I mean, it's like applied to a level, and yet it's like the most comfortable, lovable house ever, right?
I love it.
And my next exercise, hopefully if I save enough money, would be to do the same in Spain, where I have a winter,
Yeah.
which is going to be a complete different exercise from the design point of view, from passive design point of view. But I want to do the same. I want to do a bioconstruction house. Why bioconstruction? Because the energy associated to the production of those materials is literally the sun.
Hmm.
So I'm going to use hemp blocks.
Nice.
I'm going to use FSC wood for my structure. I'm going to make it a net zero. I'm going to put, all the technology equipment that I need to put to make sure that I don't consume anything.
What does net zero mean? I mean, I know, but
So,
maybe the
yeah, that's
listeners
a great
don't.
question. So net zero only applies to when the building is finished already and it's already built. So it doesn't talk about construction, right? But it's once the building is finished, you need to produce all of the electricity that the building consumes, right? For your, whatever you plug on the building, like the process loads, or whatever machine that it's within the buildings, like the aircon. And the water that you use, so you need to recycle, collect rainwater, everything needs to come from your own site.
Yeah.
So you don't buy from outside,
So I see a
right?
system again.
Yeah, exactly. So that means it's like a building that has no impact in the environment. However, it does ignore the construction process, which is very impactful, right?
Yeah.
So it is like the aim of 2050 is that every single new building will be net zero, right? Because we cannot keep buying more power, more energy, more electricity, right, to the buildings. So I think, my house is net zero. Here is quite easy because the tropical climate is quite easy.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of net zero villas around here with a lot of solar panels. We maximize roof and we collect all the rainwater, then we recycle it. I can send you a few links. It's
Yes.
a very simple, I don't need to be a rocket engineer, right, to design that. And the beauty of that is that actually I can sell power to the grid.
Yes.
You can
Awesome.
sell, because Indonesia, where we live, most of the power comes from fuel, from coal,
Yeah.
from fossil fuels. So when I hear people here, oh yeah, I left my aircon on because I like to come
No,
back and it's cold. And
Vito.
I'm like, okay, you're from Sweden. Sweden might have a mix of energy production, which your CO2 emissions associated to your power is a lot less. But I
Yeah.
promise you, in Indonesia, it's different, So,
For
so
sure.
that's another topic that I think when we're talking about living, the low impact life, the attitude is really important.
So important.
The way
Well,
we use the buildings, the way we consume, right? What we teach our
absolutely.
kids.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's I like one quote that I forgot who said it. I will link it in the comments later, but we don't need a handful of people doing it perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. You know,
Yeah.
even the smallest thing times a million can make a huge difference. It's really something we got to do together.
It's
You know?
unbelievable.
Yeah.
So here I'm struggling with this 1 ton of organic waste conversion, and I'm talking to my friends in Spain because soon they're gonna start. They have this problem. They don't know what to do with all the organic waste.
Mm.
And they were talking to me that this area, they have like around 100,000 tons of organic waste a year.
Fantastic. You can go there and do the
Yeah.
same concept.
I mean, yes, actually, we're gonna
Sorry,
propose it, but
Paula, stop
just
me.
I
Yeah.
honestly, because all of these projects, like the BSF project, I do pro bono.
Yeah. I do the same, man. All
My
the
life,
charities
my
organized for
my
free.
life doesn't have any more hours, right? I don't have any
Nurture
more
the
hours
soul.
in my.
It's to nurture the soul. It's good for the karma.
Yes, I do it, but I can't be now solving the whole of Spanish,
Of course
organic
you do.
waste. But I would love to, I think I'm done with architecture, kind of,
Yeah.
you know.
Ready for
I
something.
feel like, my goal in life would be to move towards a position where I can, like, I mean, I've done so many things in my life outside my architectural practice. I started the eco flea market here in
Yeah.
Lombok after getting inspired from your event. You had a little market, but you see
Our
the eco flea
sunset
market
market.
now, it's
It's
working
fantastic.
so well.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's
Bringing
working
people
so well and
together.
it's doing great. Sorry?
Yeah, bringing people together. Connection.
Bring people together that have a same, now
Actually,
they're like excellent friends.
yeah.
All of the presents I'm bringing back to Spain this year are from the flea market.
We
So I have the sponges that you can wash again in the laundry, and then you can reuse again. I'm bringing the cream that is like reef proof, and it's with
yeah.
no all natural. I'm bringing the plastic and Bali, mats that they do with like plastic bags and old
Yeah.
sarongs. I'm bringing the organic oil from Coconisha. Like for me, the fact that this eco flea market is having so much success, even with the local people, and how it's giving opportunity to local people to sell
Me.
if they comply with our criteria, and they are literally understanding, oh, if we comply with the criteria, we actually have more customers.
That's
So
amazing.
we're shifting, so it's amazing, and I love to do that stuff. If
Yeah.
I could get paid from things like this,
Yeah.
from just being
Say
like a
that.
creator, right? Then
Agreed.
like push for these movements, these initiatives to happen,
Agreed.
then I'll quit all my other jobs completely.
Well, Paula, it was lovely, really lovely. You're such an inspiration to have you on our episode
Thank you
of
so
Slow
much.
Secrets. If
I
people
hope I
want,
explained
yeah,
properly the
yeah,
concepts.
thank you. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
So the best place would be to write to me to my email. I am Paula arroba, o sea, Paula at, sorry, I'm from Spain, so I was saying, Paula at bambookstudioaltogether.com.
bambookstudio.com. Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Well, I wish you all a beautiful day and send you lots of love from
Thank
the
you.
island.
Take care. I hope I see you soon.
Yes, soon. Bye.
So
Slow Secrets. Ka-ching.